Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm a global artist ambassador for FENIX360, and I'm blessed to be joined today by the screenwriter and published poet, TALYN FIORE. Hi, TALYN. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you. And,
You
uh, and
too.
thanks for being with me. And I'm looking forward to learning about your journey in becoming a screenwriter and a published poet. But first, may we tune into some of your poetry reading?
Yes, I'd love that.
Okay, excellent. Then everyone, let's tune in now to TALYN FIORE and some of her poetry reading.
Said, I love you, and you meant it more than anyone before. Incredible is the sun. How blessed are we for her light. Bright sunshine after a night of rain, washing yesterday away. The sun reminds us of a promise of a new day, shining no matter what. She doesn't judge, never holding back her light. Confident, unfailing, brilliant, true. I choose to be more like the sun. In the woods, I realize the trees on each side grow together above me. Their love too great to be separated. Their embrace creating shade for all who walk this path. Oh, how the love of two provides for many.
Hey, Talon, that's beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing with us. Now,
Thank you so
listen,
much for listening.
you're welcome. Listen, can you tell me now, where are you from and how did you become a writer?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Las Vegas. I did theater growing up. I've always been a creative. Went to school in San Diego and completely put everything on hold. Did business, marketing, and management. Did the corporate world. Felt like my soul was being completely sucked away, even though I was quite successful.
Right.
So moved out here in 2016 to pursue acting. Did that for a couple years and just realized that when you're at the bottom, the level of content that you're doing is just so poor sometimes that I was like, I mean, I could do this. I could write. And, like I loved creative writing as a kid. I loved poetry as a kid, but I thought it was more just adolescence. And my mom was always like, be like Lena Dunham, like write your own show. And I'm like, Mom, like I'm like 20, 24 years old. I can't just like be Lena Dunham all of a sudden. And then she kept kind of wearing on me. And then I was going through a breakup and needed a distraction. I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to be like Lena Dunham and just write myself a show.
That is awesome.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So just self-taught, was able to write it, shoot a pilot, was very fortunate to get funding and get it together. It was very exciting. And then it kind of expanded from there. I thought that I only had one story to tell, and that was it, just based on my own life. And I kind of started dabbling in other things. Synchronicity led me to an executive producer. We pitched a few of my things. And then last September, I was fortunate enough to win a scholarship to Cape Cod for a screenwriting retreat. So that gave me a whole different type of toolbox of what I was doing at a foundational level. So I rewrote the first show completely. I wrote a second show that's a spiritual utopian show about a life kind of without trauma. The first show is all about miscommunication and loss of identity because of social media, but it's a comedy.
I love that. Yeah.
And now I'm working on a biographical piece about my father, actually, who passed away, and like the difference one person makes in different lives, and how perspective shifts and the influence of one person and kind of the ripple effect in their lives. So
Wow.
that's
Listen, all of that is so amazing, talent. I mean, there's so many things from the very beginning when you talked about having kind of a professional career that was outside of the art, that was maybe more practical or whatever you believe so probably initially, but it reminded me of like, Thoreau's quote of like living a life of quiet desperation. I've always felt that way too. It's that artists who are really following their passion and really what they feel like, they're here to do, which is to create, that you really have been honoring that. And it's great that you had the inspiration from your mom and that support, and also the success that you had once you dove into actually expressing yourself through your poetry and through your screenwriting. It's really encouraging.
thank
And it shows others that who potentially were aspiring to do something similar to get out there and just go. So
you.
that's
And thank you so much. I would say that like poetry is so much harder because it's so much more vulnerable and scary. And I was going through a bit of a heartbreak during COVID, and poems just kind of started flowing out of me. And I was like, I haven't written poetry since I was like a little girl. And it was really cool because I wasn't intending to publish a book. I then like reconciled with this person and became friends with him. And then happy poems started flowing out. And I kind of had this thought of, I thought you had to be in pain to create. And
Yeah.
so this really cool moment of like, oh, I can also create from a point of joy. And so I created this, I was just journaling, and then I'm quite spiritual. So an intuitive was like, you're writing this book. And I was like, no, I write screenplays. And she's like, no, like you're writing this book. And so I flipped through my journal one day and saw that the first page said Book of Poems by TF. And was like, oh, this is like the book I've been writing. So I kind of just like learned the software. I made it black and white, showing the duality of all of us, the light and the dark, and created this book and published it for my 30th birthday last year. And it was terrifying.
But congratulations, because that's really put, sticking your chin out there and like taking your work to another level. It's really, I really love to hear when people take that leap of faith and recognize their talent, and that you've got a gift to give. And storytelling is so beautiful, and it's so relatable. But the way you've selected stories to share, and whether or not it's coming from a place of pain or anguish or a relationship, dissolving, and so much music comes out of this kinds of, songwriting, right? Comes out of those kinds of relationship issues. But then to segue into joy and recognizing just how vast, just appreciating the world around you and relationships is another huge, also inspirational subject matter for people to enjoy. So I really appreciate that too. So what are you working on right now then, TALYN? What's coming up for you here in the near future?
Yeah, so I actually met with someone who works at a gallery that saw my book that wants to produce a set of high-end prints, because in my poetry book, I also did the photography for it. So we're currently working on doing some high-end prints, as well as redeveloping the book with a printer more focused at photography versus just poetry to kind of elevate it. I'm also working on the audiobook for that and doing it on vinyl, which is like something that I think is a really cool thing, to have like an audiobook on vinyl, but to have it be poetry, just with like that crispy sound that vinyl gives.
Right.
And I'm currently still pitching my first 2 shows with my EP and working on finishing my 3rd show.
Wow, that is incredible. And
Yes.
so listen, are there any poets that you're a fan of, or kind of help to inspire some of your work?
Yeah, so I definitely loved poetry growing up. Just I guess, like, it's so interesting. Growing up, I loved the structure of it. I used to be like obsessed with Excel spreadsheets and instructions. I liked everything to be like, oh, iambic pentameter, like do this, like this many vowels.
Very
And
struck.
it's funny because now what actually led me back to poetry was Rupi and her use of just complete free verse. Because I remember now being older, kind of thinking like, I don't want to be put in this box. I want to just express. And so now my poetry is kind of a mix of the two, like highly structured with rhyming, which my mom loves, and then just this free verse that's more of just like an expression and a pleading, and just like a statement of vulnerability.
Oh, I love it. You know what I mean? And that flow of consciousness, that free
Yeah.
verse, you know what I mean? It's just beautiful. It's interesting. I had a cool conversation with a rapper, who does, freestyling, you know what I mean? And he was teasing me, going, Johnny, you do freestyle interviewing, man. I'm like, cool, man. Thanks for saying that, brother. Oh my God. But that's what you do. You do freestyle poetry. That's cool. And I love it. And so also love learning about some of your inspirations, and also, you know what I mean, what you have coming up. And so tell me about social media. Do you use it pretty well to promote your work? What's happening?
I'm not great at it. I mean, I'm great at it. I've actually been like a social media manager for many companies. It's just self-promotion is like hard for me, but I do have an Instagram. It's at TALYN FIORE. And on there, I do have a website that includes a link to some trailers, as well as you can get my book anywhere that they sell books online. So all those links, I did a lot of press and podcasts for the book when it first came out, as well as I do Reiki healing. So you kind of can get a mix of all the things that I offer on my Instagram.
Listen, acting, it's like your poetry reading. This all takes a lot of courage, by the way. So I really appreciate that, you got some guts, you know what I mean? And you got something to share. And we want to hear it, you know what I mean? Can't wait for what's coming up next. And we're really happy that you're going to be displaying and sharing your content on the FENIX360 app, TALYN. You know what I mean? We're going to look forward to following your progress, with everything that you drop, and the possibility for people to connect with you there, and kind of maybe more or more direct way. And plus, we're also going to appreciate and encourage people to follow you on your social media links that we'll post below our interview, and look forward to you being on the app. So thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is lovely.
Yeah, thanks, Talyn. All right, take good care.
The days are long, the rain falls, the sun shines, everything blurs together. Impossible to tell the days apart, losing and finding myself all at once. Do you ever stare at fire and feel the whole world reflected back to you? Its beauty is so alluring that you long to put your hand in. For a moment, it seems the pain would be worth it. Maybe I'm confusing fire with love. Both can flicker and scorch, except love has no extinguisher. Some days you must put your feet in the sand to remind yourself you are not made of your thoughts, but of the earth, of the sea, and of the salty air.